Good morning, afternoon, or evening, and welcome to Tavern Talk, where Fable has returned from her quest. And also Lynn is here again. So, innkeep, a drink for me and this lanky pal? It's good to see you too, Lynn. She meant to say please. Welcome back, Fable. You look alive. Thank you. I am. That seems like a given. I'm just happy to see them doing well, and with a friend. We ain't friends. We're not? So you two didn't form a party? No. Oh. Then what's the drink about? They may be very annoying, but they did just help me solve a family feud of 10 years. So I do owe them some of your dishwater at the very least. Family feud? I wouldn't call it a feud, more of a miscommunication. No, it was a feud. I feel like feud implies a certain level of hostility. I was gonna kill him. I thought that was a joke. It wasn't. Oh. But no one died? No, Elfie here was able to prevent that. It's Fable. Whatever. Does this perchance have something to do with your quest? It does. I stopped her from killing the werewolf. Elaborate, please. I was going to kill the werewolf. They stopped me from killing the werewolf. What's not to get? A lot. I think she is confused because the quest was to save the villagers from the werewolf. And now it sounds like I saved the werewolf from you. Which I did, kind of. I also remember you saying you didn't want the quest, Lynn. I didn't. Was there by chance? They were both stealing sheep. Was not. Sure was. Adventuring don't pay what it used to. So you steal other people's sheep? Mind your own business. How did any of this lead to a successful quest? Well, where do I start? How about at the beginning? Right. I was born on a half-crescent dreaming moon of the quest, Fable. Right. The quest. Traveling there was no trouble. I know enough shortcuts to travel through the Ashen Grove swiftly. I reached the borders of Tregorin right around dusk. The Ashen Grove thins out around there, and you can catch a glimpse of the wide fields and vineyards, as well as see one farm after the other. An idyllic sight. Well, at least before sunset. Do you have trouble in the dark? Emotionally? Visually? A little. I mean, I reckon I can still see more than a human could, but darkness is darkness and I am no owl. Thank gods, you're already weird enough. Imagine the damage you'd do if you could turn your head all the way around. Who says I can't? Just kidding. Anyway, luckily darkness doesn't affect my hearing. Not the normal kind. What? Nothing. Okay, I heard a creaking fence and footsteps that were failing at keeping quiet. Your ears are failing at being small. So I snuck closer and I saw a werewolf-esque shape picking up a tiny sheep. I was petting it. Well, I thought she was going to eat it, so I summoned up all of my courage and I stepped out of the shadows and I said, "Good evening, werewolf. Please put down the sheep." I didn't expect them to be entirely in their right mind, of course, but I wanted to be polite. And I thought it might confuse her, and maybe that would help calm her down. It confused me, alright. Who the heck sees a werewolf and the first thing they do is greet them? A polite person? Or an insane one? It worked, didn't it? Because I ain't no werewolf. He wasn't that different. But I'm skipping ahead. To my surprise, instead of a growl, the werewolf, or not werewolf, responded with a "what?" So the confusion plan had worked, but I hadn't really expected that response. So I said again, "Please put down the sheep." And she asked, "Why?" And I said, "Well, because stealing sheep isn't very nice." And she asked who I was. No, I asked, "Who are you? A guard?" I was about to introduce myself when we heard this blood-curdling howl. It sounded like someone had ripped a hole into the fabric of reality and then pierced it with a horrid yell. Please, it was barely a bark. And it made the blood freeze in my veins. I heard panting and heavy footsteps, and I barely dared to turn around. You turned around immediately. And when I did, I stared into the twisted face of a werewolf, yellow gleaming eyes. Gleaming with jaundice. Sharp teeth, giant claws. He looked like he wanted to eat me right up. He did. But before I could beg for mercy, suddenly something rushed past me and lunged at the werewolf. When I regained my composure, Carolyn and the werewolf were on the ground, fighting tooth and nail. And the sheep you were holding? Obviously, I set it down at that point. Good. So you went to Fable's aid? No, that ain't it. I noticed the wolf's flannel rags. They were blue, checkered, had an uneven print. Just like the kind of stuff Uncle Dragon likes to wear. That old, Hey, why can't I say that? What the? Youth protection. The age rating system is quite harsh. Ah. Anyway, I was dressed like Uncle Dragon, smelled like Uncle Dragon, fought like him too. I was joking when I brought it up here, you know, Haven't seen that old man in years. Was coping about it by joking. That's the only way I can talk about him these days. Because of the feud? Yes. He used to be my favorite uncle, but then he changed. Became irritable and angry, distant, fought a lot with Uncle Fedor. Cared more about the moon than he did his own family. Eventually he just left, ran away, without a word, left us and Uncle Fedor behind, worried senseless. Until we found a letter saying not to look for him and all their savings missing. Swore I was gonna kill him if I ever saw him again. Always thought he just couldn't face up to his problems. Turns out his solution was just to get those problems as far away from everyone as possible. Idiot. Did you talk it out with your fists? I tried, but Elfie stopped me. I'm glad they did. How did you figure that out? Well, she was yelling at him. I didn't understand half of it, but I could tell she was angry and hurt. I tried to get their attention by telling them to stop, but they wouldn't listen, so I shot an arrow right next to both of their heads. My aim was a little shaky, so I did end up grazing Mr. Dragon's ear. But it got them to stop for long enough to start listening to me. I threatened them that if they didn't stop to talk, I would shoot them both. I would have never done that, of course. But they must have believed me because they actually stopped to listen. Looked mighty scary there, little pal. Thank you. I sat them down and did my best to be an insurmountable obstacle between them. If they wanted to fight, they would have to go through me. That sounds rather dangerous. It was. Wouldn't have stopped for them. What? You're the size of a stick. You think you could stop two angry wolves? Oh, well, anyway. I used the opportunity to figure out what was going on. And that's how I found out about Mr. Dragon and Carolyn and the miscommunication. Feud. The feud, sure. Turns out that after Mr. Dragon was turned, he was too ashamed to admit it. But he couldn't stop the changes and ended up hurting all the people he cared about. That's no excuse, of course. No, it ain't. If we had known, we'd have helped him best we could. At the very least, would have built a sturdy shed with scratch-proof walls for full moons. He didn't think that would have happened, though. So he decided to fix the problem by leaving, deal with it alone, and so on. But that only made it worse. Of course, he was too embarrassed to come back, so he just focused on the whole werewolf thing and not any human things, or Vukaking things, so to speak. Trying to find a cure, trying to avoid the moon, trying to find a place to sleep, stealing sheep. That's something they have in common. The sheep? No, the stubbornness and the unwillingness to ask for help. But the sheep too. But they had to talk about it. That silent resentment wasn't good for either of them. And you got them to do that? The little stick is oddly persuasive. Had us talking about it before I even realized I didn't want to. Maybe because you did want to. Maybe. How did it go? Fine. We'll take some time to accept his apology. We'll have to see him change first, and apologize to Uncle Fedor and the rest. But it was good to see him again. Guess the hog did feel better than a greatsword in his gut. Wonderful. Of course, there's still the problem with the whole werewolf thing. Idiot got so obsessed with a cure he still can barely control himself. We helped him realize that even a cure couldn't change what he'd done. That he has to accept he's different now and learn how to live again. Of course, it won't be easy. No change ever is. I learned that from you. But we have a group of werewolves living near our settlement. A small community that enjoys the company of our warm trees. We play charades with them a lot, and they taught me about the phases of the 7 moons and the secrets of the moon signs. That sounds like a bunch of... It's real. You're a crescent moose. We introduced Mr. Dragon to them and they promised they would take him in and help him deal with his lycanthropy. That sounds great. It is. It's a happy ending. I wouldn't call it an ending, rather the beginning of something new. So the end of one adventure is just the beginning of another one? Exactly. I like that. So, after your heroic therapy session, you two decided to grab a drink together? Got offered to spend the day at the settlement. But they don't serve anything strong enough for my tastes. Plus, Elfie was dying to get back here. Was talking about how they need to update you on everything non-stop. Would think they live here or something. I had to report back about the quest. I'm glad you did. They also started crafting something with the werewolves. Ah! Said something about it being for you in keep. Oh, really? Yeah. It's not finished yet, but I'll let you know, I promise. That wasn't that hard, was it? Well. So, a drink. What can I offer you, Lynn? Surprise me with something that fits my brawn. By which I mean make me the usual strength never gets old. Alright. So, we need a Southern Brawler. A little bit of this. And a little bit of this. And a lot of this. And And that's a southern brawler. Surprise! Not bad. You should do this professionally. I'll think about it. Fable, what about you? Do you have something that'll calm me down? Maybe even bring some of my agility back? Like a swift strike back to my senses? I've had a stressful day, night, morning, sequence of events. Okay, so a swift strike. So, a little bit of this. And a little bit of this. And a lot of this. And that's a swift strike. Here you go. Thank you. Wow, this is perfect. You look tired. Have you considered sleep? They do look like they're going to pass out any second. So do you. Maybe sleep is a good idea. Carolyn, do you have a place to sleep? I can sleep anywhere. It's a talent. It's depressing. I have a room available. You can stay there. Sounds good. How much? I'll count it as payment for your help with the quest. Fine. Later, Elfie. See you later. Are you heading home, Fable? Yes, I've been gone for a whole day. I need to get back and make sure everything is still growing correctly. Maybe take a nap first. Yes, that too. Did you enjoy your first quest? I did. It was scary and different from what I expected. And I didn't know I was so good at pretending to be charming. Have you considered that you weren't pretending? You did well, Fable. Thank you. I hope that wasn't my only adventure. I think this is just the beginning. That would be nice. Do you think I'm going to save the world one day? That's a very tall order. You're right. I'm not cut out for that. I didn't say that. I would just prefer it if the world didn't end. Right. But if it does, you're the first person I'd ask for help. Maybe you should ask Caroline first, but I'd be happy to be the second. We'll see. Let's hope we won't. I like this world, and you do have a point. We shouldn't hope for such a calamity. Even if it would make for a good song. Or a sad one. Or both. I'm going to head home now. Do that. I'll stock up on quests for you. I can't wait. See you soon. See you soon. Right. I think this is a good point to end this episode. We'll continue with this person in the next one. I'm thinking if they're up for it, we might send them to get that cape from the vampire countess or whatever she was. I think this person would be very qualified for that. But yeah, we'll see in the next episode. For now, thank you so much for watching and spending a little of your time with me here today. It was lovely to have you. Please remember to be kind to yourself. Have a lovely rest of your day, and I will see you again next time.